Hiya friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this video. I've always said and said very frequently in a lot of my videos where I talk about modern culture and what's going on in the world is that I really truly do not understand how the left thinks. And I recently came across, thanks to my pastor at church, recently came across a book that began to answer some of my questions. I want to do kind of a book report on what I've learned about tolerance. So stick around. The book is called The New Tolerance by Josh McDowell and co-authored by Bob Hostetler. Here's what the book looks like. You can see it right there. There is some available here and there. I did find one copy on Amazon. This book was published in 1998. And what he's talking about here in this book is the difference between what you and I may consider and call and refer to as traditional tolerance versus the new tolerance. So let me get into some detail here. I think we've all heard that there's a saying and goes around that says, love the sinner, hate the sin. And maybe if you love God, you must hate evil. Well, here's how this metamorphosis in what we call tolerance has occurred over the last couple of decades or so, maybe even a little bit longer. Tolerance is defined in Webster's dictionary as follows: to recognize and respect other people's beliefs, practices, etc., without necessarily agreeing with them or sympathizing, or without necessarily sharing those same beliefs and practices. So, traditional tolerance does things like this. It's respecting and protecting the legitimate rights of others even if you disagree. It's listening to and learning from other perspectives and cultures and backgrounds. And that would be like a young Christian man attending a friend's bar mitzvah to learn about the differences in that particular culture and that particular practice. It means, or used to mean, traditional, living peaceably alongside others in spite of differences, accepting other people regardless of their race, creed, nationality, or sex. That's how I learned what the meaning of tolerance was. But that's changed, and here's the steps in that change, at least according to Josh McDowell in his book, The New Tolerance. Here's the transition. Truth is relative to the community in which a person participates. Step one. Step two. There are many communities, therefore, there are many different truths. Since there are multiple descriptions of reality or truth, no one view can be true in an ultimate sense. Truth is described by language, and language is created by humans. Therefore, all truth is created by humans. Therefore, all truth is equal, and all options are therefore equal. So if you think about what the left is trying to say here with this new tolerance, they've said that if you love the person, you must love their beliefs. You must love their practices. You must love their lifestyles. And I think it goes beyond the pale that the left has taken such a secular view of this particular point, where they point to truth as being purely a human invention, disregarding the truth that we get from the Almighty. Trying to unpack a little bit of what this methodology is really all about. When you're talking about truth being relative, truth being a construct of human language, and therefore truth is equal, it's relative, and for the left, that all makes sense. The philosopher great G.K. Chesterton once said, "Tolerance is the virtue of the man without convictions." And if you think about that and apply it to what this new tolerance is really all about, I think you get what he's really trying to say. Without a conviction, without a belief system, without something that you know to be ultimately true, that things like murder, anything in the Ten Commandments. So when you hear people say things or get criticized for being homophobic or misogynistic or Islamophobic, it means that they're not accepting the belief system, the cultural systems that are in place in those environments, in those cultures, in those, what does it call it, those communities in which those persons participate. And you can do that if you don't have any convictions. So if you have no convictions, then all truth is relative, all truth is true. Anything that anybody does is just fine with you, with anybody. So it's perfectly okay to believe that certain behaviors, certain cultural norms are perfectly equal, perfectly okay, and that if you love the person, as God told us we were supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves, or as He loved us, then you're missing the point. And the point is, you have to have convictions of what is truly true. So the new tolerance is defined as follows. Every individual's beliefs, values, lifestyles, and perception of truth claims are equal. There is no hierarchy of truth. Your beliefs and my beliefs are equal, and all truth is relative. I think it goes a long way to explain what the left has done, what that dominant theory has done to our culture. If you try to apply that logic to, say, the Ku Klux Klan or the Nazi Party in Germany in the 30s and 40s, if you try to apply that and say it's all relative, it's all equal, it's fine what they did because that was what they believed was the truth. That's what they believed was the right thing to do. But it doesn't fit. It can't fit. If you don't believe that murdering people is the right thing to do you have a conviction there? Are you willing to stand up and fight for that conviction? Are you willing to stand by and let murder be condoned? Are you willing to just lay back and say, well, it's all relative. That's what they do in Nazi Germany. That's what they did in the Ku Klux Klan. It's all relative, so it doesn't, as long as it doesn't affect me, then I'm okay with it. People can do whatever they want to do in the privacy of their own homes, but that's not what's happening. Once you make your convictions known, you are open to all kinds of backlash, of name calling. You name it, there's a lot of it going on. I know that when you're a content creator on YouTube and you express an opinion, express a belief, there's always somebody out there that says, oh, you are wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're thinking improperly, you're a racist, you're a misogynist, you're a homophobe, you're something, and they give you a name and they chastise you. And if you think back to certain of the doctrines from the left, Saul Alinsky, he knows exactly how to power the left to make it so. And it's happening all over. That's why you see people being restricted on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, because they expressed an opinion that doesn't set with the truth that the left wants everyone to believe, that everything is equal, everything is fine, just don't bother me with it. Whatever people do in their own perspective, that's fine for them, all that. Well, it has to stop sometime. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of the change going on right now. I got to praise the Supreme Court for really taking a look at and understanding what's in our Constitution when it comes to things like overturning Roe versus Wade, or the Second Amendment case, the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. They looked at the Constitution and they said, no, wait a minute, as far as Roe versus Wade, the federal government should not be in the business and is not in the business of creating rights. They're not in the business of creating those kinds of laws. That is reserved for the states. And because the states, some are doing it, some are not, some have very restrictive rules on abortion, some have wide open rules on abortion, the Supreme Court looked at the Constitution and said it belongs to the states. That's all they did. They didn't say you don't have a right to an abortion. They didn't say that abortion's evil, that it should be banned. They turned the decision-making back to the states. That's what should happen in every Supreme Court case. They should look at the Constitution, see what the Constitution says for the limits of power, the co-equal branches of government, and make the final determinations based on that interpretation of the Constitution. It was not a unanimous vote, so there are some folks that have interpreted, obviously, the Constitution differently than the originalists that did vote on the Roe v. Wade overturning case. But when you look at things like the Second Amendment and the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association decision on versus Bruin on the extraordinarily strict and restrictive New York State rulings for a shall carry kind of a state where you had to demonstrate a super need to be able to carry a concealed weapon. Well, they haven't learned their lesson because the governor just signed into law a whole new package of restrictions designed to do basically the same thing that the Supreme Court said you can't do that. The Second Amendment's very clear in what it says. The rights of the people shall not be infringed. And it's that simple. So permeates this whole thing, this tolerance nonsense, this new tolerance nonsense. It permeates everything in our society, and we as conservatives, we as patriots, need to see it for what it is and fight it at every juncture that we find it. And now that you've seen it, and I urge you to go read Josh McDowell's book, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. It's one of the most important lessons I think I've learned in my quest to try to understand what's really going on in this great country of ours. There's still hope for the future, at least I'm hoping there is. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you all on the next video.